The Little Mermaid, Hans Christian Andersen's tragic tale. Disney's Ariel gets her prince and her happily ever after, but in the Hans Christian Andersen's 1837 original, not even close. In fact, it's one of the most heartbreaking stories ever written. First off, let's talk about the transformation itself. In Disney's film, Ariel loses her voice temporarily as payment to Ursula. But in Andersen's version, the sea witch doesn't just take the mermaid's voice. She cuts out her tongue with a knife, while the mermaid is fully conscious. And that's just the beginning of her suffering. The potion the mermaid drinks doesn't just give her legs. It feels like a sword is being driven through her body. Every single step she takes on her new legs feels like she's walking on broken glass and sharp knives. The prince thinks she has the most graceful walk he's ever seen, never knowing that she's in constant, excruciating agony. But here's where it gets really dark. The mermaid makes this deal because she's told that if she wins the prince's love and marries him, she'll gain an immortal soul. Mermaids in Andersen's world don't have souls. When they die, they just turn into sea foam and cease to exist. So the stakes aren't just about love, they're about her very existence in the afterlife. The prince does care for the mermaid. He keeps her close, lets her sleep outside his door on a velvet cushion, takes her riding with him. But he loves her like a devoted child, not a wife. He's actually in love with a princess from a neighboring kingdom, the girl he believes saved him from drowning. Plot twist. It was actually the mermaid who saved him, but he was unconscious and never saw her. He only remembers waking up on the beach to see the princess's face. When the prince announces he's marrying this other princess, the mermaid's heart breaks. And here's the kicker. Her sisters come to her with a knife. They've traded their beautiful long hair to the sea witch for this blade. The deal is simple and horrifying. Kill the prince, let his blood drip on her feet, and she'll become a mermaid again. She'll get her old life back and live out her 300 years before turning to sea foam. So, the mermaid sneaks into the prince's bedroom on his wedding night. She raises the knife over the sleeping prince and his new bride. And then she can't do it because she loves him too much. So instead, she throws herself into the sea as dawn breaks, expecting to dissolve into foam and nothingness. Pinocchio. Carlo Collodi's violent little brat Disney's Pinocchio is mischievous but good-hearted. But Carlo Collodi's 1883 original features a wooden puppet who's honestly kind of a sociopath. Before Geppetto even finishes carving him, Pinocchio steals the old man's wig. Once he gets legs, he runs away and lies so convincingly that Geppetto gets arrested. This puppet got his father thrown in jail on his first day of existence. When the talking cricket tries to give him advice, Pinocchio throws a hammer at him and kills him. The punishments are brutal too. Pinocchio's feet burn completely off at one point. His nose grows so long he can't turn around in the room. And on Pleasure Island, boys literally turn into donkeys and are sold to circuses and salt mines. Collodi actually intended to end the story with Pinocchio's death, hanged by assassins and left dangling from a tree. That was supposed to be the end of a children's story. His editor demanded he continue, so he brought Pinocchio back through a fairy. But even the redemptive ending is harsh. Pinocchio becomes real only after Geppetto becomes deathly ill from poverty. The transformation is about truly growing up and becoming responsible. Snow White, Brothers, Grimm's Jealousy and Revenge. Disney's evil queen wants to be the fairest in the land. In the Brothers Grimm 1812 version, when Snow White is just 7 years old, the queen orders a huntsman to kill her and bring back her lungs and liver. The queen plans to eat them. When the huntsman brings back a boar's organs instead, the queen eats them thinking they're Snow White's. The queen doesn't just try to kill Snow White once. First, she laces Snow White's bodice so tight she can't breathe. The dwarfs cut the laces and save her. Then, she uses a poisoned comb. And finally, the poisoned apple works. Here's the disturbing part. The dwarfs put Snow White in a glass coffin and keep her corpse on a mountaintop for years. A prince comes by, sees this beautiful dead girl, and becomes obsessed with her corpse. He begs the dwarfs to let him take the coffin home. As his servants carry it, one stumbles and dislodges the apple piece from her throat. So she didn't wake from true love's kiss. She woke from blunt force trauma. The darkest part? At Snow White's wedding, the queen is forced to put on red-hot iron shoes and dance in them until she drops dead. Sleeping Beauty, Giambattista Basile's Sun, Moon, and Talia. Disney's version is about a girl who sleeps until a prince's kiss wakes her. Giambattista Basile's 1634 tale is absolutely horrifying. When Talia falls into her death-like sleep from a splinter, her father can't bear to bury her, so he seats her corpse on a throne in an abandoned estate. A king finds her, can't wake her, and rapes her unconscious body. Then he leaves. Still unconscious, Talia becomes pregnant and gives birth to twins 9 months later. One baby, searching for a nipple, sucks on her finger and removes the splinter. She wakes up to find 2 newborn babies with no memory of how they got there. When the king returns and finds her awake, he's overjoyed and they fall in love, but he's already married. His wife discovers the affair and orders her cook to kill the children and serve them to the king for dinner. Then she tries to burn Talia alive, but the king saves Talia and has his wife burned instead. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo's tragedy. Victor Hugo's 1831 novel is one of the bleakest stories in literature, where virtually no one survives. Quasimodo isn't just misunderstood, he's deaf, severely deformed, and genuinely frightening to behold. Frollo isn't just a hypocritical judge, but an archdeacon whose religious obsession runs much deeper. And Esmeralda faces medieval torture, the boot device that crushes legs and feet, until she confesses to witchcraft and attempted murder under duress. And Captain Phoebus isn't heroic. He's a shallow womanizer who sees Esmeralda as an exotic fling and abandons her to her fate. When she's sentenced to death, Quasimodo saves her and hides her in Notre Dame, caring for her devotedly while she remains in love with Phoebus, who never comes for her. Frollo offers Esmeralda a choice: become his mistress or die, and she chooses death every time. Eventually, she's dragged from the cathedral and hanged. Quasimodo realizes Frollo is responsible and throws him from the Notre Dame towers. And Quasimodo? Years later, workers find 2 skeletons in a catacomb. One is Esmeralda's. The other is a deformed male skeleton holding hers. When they try to separate them, it crumbles to dust. Quasimodo lay down beside her corpse and stayed until he died. So no one got a happy ending. Tarzan, Edgar Rice Burroughs' Savage Lord. Tarzan, which was based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1912 novel, is violent, racist, and brutal. Tarzan doesn't live peacefully with apes. He kills constantly. As a child, he kills his first human and is thrilled by it. He hunts members of a cannibal tribe for sport, not for food or protection, but because he enjoys it. When Kerchak attacks him, adult Tarzan kills him in brutal combat and becomes the tribe leader. The racism is blatant. Despite being raised by apes, Tarzan is naturally superior due to his British aristocrat bloodline. The novel argues that genetics determine everything, which is a deeply problematic stand today. When Jane arrives, Tarzan kidnaps her repeatedly and stalks her. When threatened, he kills a man by breaking his neck while Jane watches. So she's naturally terrified of him. The novel ends with Tarzan sacrificing his identity as Lord Greystoke so his cousin can marry Jane, making the decision without consulting her. In the end, he gives up everything and remains alone in the jungle. Hercules, Greek mythology's tragic hero. Disney's Hercules is a fun adventure, but wait until you hear where the tale came from. First of all, he's not Hera's son. He's the product of Zeus seducing a mortal woman. Hera hated him from birth and sent serpents to kill him as an infant. Years later, she cursed him with madness, and in that state, he murdered his wife Megara and their children. The 12 labors weren't heroic quests. They were punishments for these murders. Each labor was designed to kill him, fight the invincible Nemean lion, kill the multi-headed Hydra, capture Cerberus from the underworld. Even after completing them, his life remained cursed. When he wore a shirt poisoned with Hydra venom, it burned his flesh so badly he couldn't remove it because it had fused to his skin. Unable to die because of his demigod nature, he built a funeral pyre and burned himself to death to escape the agony. Only after death did Zeus bring him to Olympus as a full god. Disney's version, where Hercules gives up godhood to be with Meg, proving that true heroism is about the strength of one's heart, is sweet and meaningful. But it has almost nothing to do with the Greek tragedy of a man who could never escape his fate. Cinderella, Brothers Grimm's mutilation. Disney's Cinderella gets a fairy godmother and a happy ending. The Grimm version involves mutilation and divine vengeance. First, there's no fairy godmother in the Grimm version. When Cinderella's father goes to a fair, he asks his daughters what they want. The stepsisters demand dresses and jewels. Cinderella asks for the first branch that brushes his hat on his way home. He brings her a hazel twig and she plants it on her mother's grave, watering it with her tears. The tree grows and a white bird appears in it, implied to be her mother's spirit. When Cinderella needs help, she goes to this tree and prays, and the bird throws down what she needs. So Cinderella's getting help from her dead mother's ghost, which is already dark. The ball happens over 3 nights, not 1. Each night, Cinderella goes in increasingly magnificent gowns provided by the bird. Each night, the prince is captivated by her, and each night she runs away before he can learn who she is. When the prince takes the slipper and goes looking for its owner, the stepsisters try to deceive him. The older sister takes the shoe into a room with her mother. Her foot is too big, so her mother hands her a knife and tells her to cut off her big toe. The prince rides away with her, but birds warn him about the blood streaming from the shoe. So the second sister cuts off part of her heel, and again, the birds warn the prince. Finally, Cinderella tries the slipper. It fits perfectly. The prince recognizes her as the mysterious beauty from the ball, and they're to be married. At Cinderella's wedding, the stepsisters walk alongside her to church. Birds swoop down and peck out one eye from each sister. On the way back, they switch sides, and the birds peck out their other eyes. The stepsisters are left permanently blind as punishment.